Welcome back to our channel, World Coins History. As you knew that old is gold, but these rare Jefferson nickel that are most valuable than you think, don't spend one of them, so please watch complete video and find your treasure. Let's start this. Top 1. Today, we're going to take a close look at a coin that many people overlook, yet it has some fascinating surprises hiding within it. We're talking about the Jefferson nickel from 1971, a coin that at first glance seems like just another piece of pocket change, but when you know what to look for, it can be worth far more than just 5 cents. So stay with me, because you don't want to miss the details on this one. The Jefferson nickel series began back in 1938, replacing the Buffalo nickel, and it has been one of the longest-running designs in United States coinage. By 1971, this coin had already been in production for over 3 decades, but what makes the 1971 issue particularly interesting is not just the history, but the small details and minting varieties that collectors have been chasing for years. Now, let's paint a picture of the coin itself. On the front, or obverse, you see the familiar portrait of Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States, designed by Felix Schlag. Jefferson's face had been a staple of American coinage for decades by this point, but in 1971, the design still carried sharp details and higher-grade strikes, showing off his serious expression and the word liberty in script alongside the date. On the reverse, we find the famous image of Monticello, Jefferson's Virginia estate, standing proudly in classical design. The simplicity of the design may fool some into thinking these nickels are ordinary, but coin collectors know better. What makes the 1971 Jefferson nickel intriguing is not necessarily its mintage numbers, since the Philadelphia Mint alone struck hundreds of millions of them, and the Denver Mint added even more. With such high production, most 1971 nickels are common in circulated condition. But here's where it gets exciting. When you look closer, you'll discover that certain errors, mint varieties, and high-grade examples can bring in impressive value. Collectors pay special attention to full steps examples. This refers to the staircase detail on Monticello on the reverse of the coin. If all 6 steps are fully visible and unbroken, that coin becomes highly desirable. The problem is that most 1,971 nickels were weakly struck, and the steps often appear mushy or worn down even on fresh coins. So, if you come across a 1971 Jefferson nickel with sharp details and full steps, you found something that collectors are willing to pay a premium for. But that's not all. Error coins from this year are another category that truly excites coin lovers. Some 1971 nickels have been found with double die obverse, where Jefferson's profile or the inscriptions appear doubled. Others might show off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or misaligned dies, each creating a unique one-of-a-kind piece. Errors like these don't just make a coin interesting, they make it rare. And rarity is what drives value. So why should you care about a coin that most people would toss into their change jar without thinking twice? Because hidden among the ordinary are gems that can be worth serious money. Imagine finding a nickel in your pocket that turns out to be a highly sought-after full steps example or a striking error variety. That thrill of discovery is exactly what keeps collectors searching and studying coins like the 1971 Jefferson nickel. And now comes the part you've been waiting for. The value. Most circulated 1971 nickels are worth only face value, but if you have one in pristine uncirculated condition, the story changes dramatically. A beautiful example with full steps can sell for hundreds of dollars, and rare error coins can climb into the thousands. In fact, one stunning 1971 Jefferson nickel with full steps has sold at auction for more than $2,000, while especially rare and unique errors have crossed the block for even higher amounts. So the next time you come across a nickel from 1971, don't just glance at it and let it slip by. Take a closer look at the details, study the steps on Monticello, and watch out for those fascinating mint errors. That ordinary-looking coin in your hand could turn out to be a hidden treasure. Top 2, we're diving into a coin that many of us have seen, used, or maybe even ignored without realizing its hidden secrets. It's the Jefferson nickel from the year 1987. At first glance, this coin might look like any other 5-cent piece, but when you dig deeper into its history, its condition, and its fascinating minting quirks, you'll see why collectors pay close attention to it. The Jefferson nickel has been around since 1938, and by the time 1987 rolled around, it was already a staple of American pocket change. Designed by Felix Schlag, this coin features the familiar portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the front and Monticello, his Virginia home, on the back. Even after decades in circulation, the design remained simple yet elegant, a true reflection of American history and tradition. In 1987, both the Philadelphia and Denver mints struck hundreds of millions of nickels, so naturally, many people assume they're common. And yes, if you pull one out of your pocket in worn condition, it usually won't be worth more than face value. But the magic of the 1987 Jefferson nickel lies in the details, and it's those details that can transform an everyday coin into a treasure. Collectors always look for examples with what's called full steps on the Monticello side of the coin. The steps leading up to the building are notoriously hard to find fully struck. Most coins from 1987 show weak or incomplete steps, even right from the mint. So when a coin shows crisp, complete steps without breaks, it becomes a highly desirable piece. These full steps nickels are among the most valuable finds of this year, and collectors chase them passionately, but that's not the only thing to watch for. Minting errors can make 1987 nickels truly special. Imagine holding a coin where the design is doubled, giving Jefferson's profile a strange shadow or making the lettering appear blurry. That's a double die error, and those are worth hunting for. Other errors include off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing, or clipped planchets, where a chunk of the coin's edge was cut off during production. Each of these errors makes the coin unique, and uniqueness is what collectors love. Another factor that makes the 1987 nickel interesting is its condition. Finding a coin from this year in uncirculated, mint-fresh condition is harder than you'd think. After all, these coins were meant for everyday use, and most were passed from hand to hand for decades. That means sharp, shiny examples with no scratches or wear are becoming increasingly rare, and rarity always drives demand. So why should you, as a coin collector or even just a curious treasure hunter, care about a simple 1987 nickel? Because inside those handfuls of change or old jars tucked away in your house might be a coin that collectors are desperate to find. And it's not just about owning a coin, it's about the story it tells, the history it represents, and the thrill of discovering something valuable where most people see nothing at all. Now let's talk about value, because I know that's the part you've been waiting for. While most 1987 nickels in average condition are worth just 5 cents, uncirculated examples with sharp details and especially those with full steps can reach well into the hundreds of dollars. Rare mint errors from this year have sold for even more. In fact, some of the finest known 1987 Jefferson nickels with full steps have brought prices at auction climbing over $1,000, while dramatic errors have gone even higher depending on their uniqueness. So next time you're sifting through your coins, don't overlook that 1987 nickel. Check those steps on Monticello, look carefully for doubling, and keep an eye out for any strange minting mistakes. That little coin in your hand could be hiding a big surprise. Top 3, we're going to take a close look at a coin that many people have in their collections without even realizing its hidden potential. It's the Jefferson nickel from the year 1990, a 5-cent piece that may seem ordinary at first glance, but when you know what to look for, it can be far more exciting than you'd expect. So stay tuned, because this little coin has some secrets worth uncovering. The Jefferson nickel has been in circulation since 1938, and by 1990, it had already been a familiar sight in the pockets of millions of Americans for over 50 years. Designed by Felix Schlag, this classic coin features the portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the front, facing left, with the word Liberty in Jefferson's own handwriting style along with the date. On the reverse side, you see Monticello, Jefferson's historic home in Virginia, depicted in a clean, simple style. It may look like a common coin, but the year 1990 holds some fascinating varieties and error coins that every collector should know about. The Philadelphia and Denver mints both struck hundreds of millions of these nickels in 1990, which means that in circulated condition, most of them are still worth only their face value. However, coin collecting isn't about the ordinary, it's about the extraordinary examples that survive against the odds. The key to finding a valuable 1990 Jefferson nickel lies in two things: condition and errors. collectors love coins in pristine, uncirculated condition, and with Jefferson nickels, they also search for something called full steps. The steps on Monticello are notoriously difficult to find fully struck, with sharp, uninterrupted detail. Most 1990 nickels, even right out of the mint, show weak strikes or worn details that make the steps appear faded. But if you happen to come across one with clear, complete steps, you've got a coin that is far scarcer and far more valuable, but it doesn't stop there. Minting errors from 1990 can turn an ordinary nickel into a rare and collectible treasure. Some coins are known with double die errors, where Jefferson's profile or the lettering appears doubled, creating a ghostly shadow effect. Others feature off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing, giving the coin a dramatic and unusual appearance. There are also examples with clipped planchets, where a portion of the coin's edge looks cut off, or even struck through errors, where a piece of debris left an impression on the coin's surface during minting. These are the types of coins that collectors love to find, because each one is unique, and unique always means valuable. Another reason the 1990 Jefferson nickel stands out is the challenge of finding high-grade examples. After more than 3 decades, most of these coins have been heavily circulated, showing scratches, dings, and fading details. Spotting one in mint-fresh condition is like spotting a diamond in the rough, and collectors are willing to pay strong premiums for such coins, especially when they combine rarity, full detail, and I appeal. So why should you check your nickels from 1990 carefully? Because hiding among the common ones could be a piece that collectors dream of owning. A coin that has survived in flawless condition, or one with a dramatic minting error, could transform a simple 5-cent piece into a treasure worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. And now, the part you've been waiting for, the value. While the majority of 1990 nickels are worth only face value in circulated condition, coins in uncirculated grades with sharp details and full steps can sell for several $100s. Error coins from this year, depending on the type and severity, have been auctioned for even higher. In fact, some of the finest 1990 Jefferson nickels with full steps have sold for more than $1,000, and unique minting errors have reached into the thousands at auction. So don't dismiss the 1990 Jefferson nickel as just another common coin. Take a closer look at those steps on Monticello, search for doubling or striking errors, and keep an eye out for the kind of details that most people overlook. You never know when a simple nickel could turn into a hidden fortune. Top 4. We're going to take a closer look at a coin that many people still see in their change every single day, yet it holds more secrets than most realize. It's the Jefferson nickel from the year 2002, a 5-cent coin that may seem ordinary on the surface but actually has some fascinating details, rare varieties, and error coins that can make it worth far more than face value. So stay tuned, because if you're a coin collector or just someone who loves the thrill of hidden treasures, this is one video you won't want to miss. By 2002, the Jefferson nickel had already been in circulation for more than 6 decades, carrying the design created by Felix Schlag back in 1938. The obverse still features the portrait of Thomas Jefferson, while the reverse shows Monticello, his famous Virginia home. Even though this design had been around for decades, 2002 was one of the final years before big design changes came in with the Westward Journey series in 2004. That makes the 2002 nickel part of the last, classic era, of Jefferson nickels, adding an extra layer of collector appeal. The Philadelphia and Denver mints struck hundreds of millions of these coins in 2002, which means that most of them are still very common in worn condition. If you pull one out of your pocket, chances are it's only worth 5 cents. But what really excites collectors are the coins that stand out, the ones that survived in pristine condition, or those that came out of the mint with fascinating mistakes. Let's start with condition. High-grade examples of the 2002 nickel are much harder to find than you might think. Coins that have never been used, known as uncirculated, are always sought after. And then there are the highly prized full steps nickels. On the Monticello design, you can see the steps at the front of the building, but on most coins they are faint, blurry, or incomplete. A nickel with strong, sharp, uninterrupted steps is rare, and collectors are always willing to pay a premium for them, but the real thrill often comes with minting errors. The 2002 Jefferson nickel is known for having some interesting mistakes. There are examples of off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing, giving the coin a dramatic and unusual look. Some coins show double dies, where parts of the lettering or Jefferson's features appear doubled. Others might display clipped planchets, where the coin has a missing curved section from the edge, or even struck through errors, where debris from the minting process left its mark. Each of these error coins is completely unique, and uniqueness is what drives collectors to pay top dollar. Another factor making the 2002 nickel exciting is that it bridges two different eras of the Jefferson series. Because major design changes came shortly after, collectors often pay extra attention to coins from the early 2000s, knowing they represent the closing chapter of the classic Schlag design. That adds another reason to keep an eye on the nickels from this year. So why should you check every 2002 nickel you come across? Because hidden among the millions of common ones could be a coin with perfect details, or a mint error that makes it one of a kind. And while most people would never give it a second glance, coin collectors know that even the smallest difference can transform a simple nickel into something truly valuable. Now, let's talk about the part you've been waiting for, the value. In circulated condition, most 2002 nickels are worth just their face value. But when you step up to uncirculated examples with sharp details, their price can rise into the tens of dollars. Full steps coins from 2002 are significantly rarer, and those have sold for well into the hundreds. Error coins, depending on how dramatic or unique they are, can bring even higher premiums. In fact, some of the finest known 2002 Jefferson nickels with full steps have sold for over $200, while rare and dramatic mint errors have reached values of more than $1,000 at auction. So next time you see a 2002 nickel in your change, don't just toss it aside. Take a closer look at Monticello, study those steps, and check for any unusual errors. That ordinary 5-cent coin could be hiding extraordinary value. Top 5 and last rare coin, we're taking a closer look at the United States Jefferson nickel from 1991. At first, it might just look like an ordinary coin you've seen thousands of times before, but if you listen carefully and pay attention to the details, you'll discover that this little 5-cent piece can hide some serious surprises. The Jefferson nickel has been in circulation since 1938, and by 1991, it had already been part of American life for more than 50 years. Designed by Felix Schlag, the obverse features the familiar portrait of Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States, while the reverse shows his home, Monticello. For decades, this design had become a staple of American coinage, so much so that people often overlook it in their change. But collectors know that certain years, including 1991, can hold much more value than meets the eye. Both the Philadelphia and Denver mints struck hundreds of millions of nickels in 1991. That means if you grab one from your pocket change today, chances are it's only worth its face value. But as with so many coins, the magic is in the details, condition, strike quality, and the presence of mint errors. One of the most important things to look for in 1991 nickels is whether the Monticello design on the back shows what's called full steps. These are the small steps at the base of Monticello, and they're notoriously hard to find fully struck. On most coins, the steps are mushy or incomplete. But on the rare ones where all the steps are sharp and unbroken, collectors are willing to pay a premium. The challenge of finding a full steps 1991 nickel makes it one of the standout features of this year. Then we get to the world of minting errors, which is where things get really exciting. Error coins from 1991 can take many forms. Some examples show double die errors, where the lettering or even Jefferson's profile appears doubled. Others might have off-center strikes, giving the coin a dramatic and unusual appearance where part of the design is missing. There are also clipped planchets, where a curved chunk of metal is missing from the edge of the coin, and struck through errors, where something got between the die and the planchet during minting, leaving a strange mark or indentation. These mistakes transform ordinary coins into one-of-a-kind collectibles. Another factor adding to the appeal of the 1991 Jefferson nickel is condition. More than 30 years have passed since these coins were first struck, and most have been heavily circulated, picking up scratches, dings, and wear. Finding one in pristine, mint state condition is much harder than people think, and that rarity in itself adds significant value. So, what makes the 1991 nickel so attractive to collectors. It's the combination of challenge and potential reward. Most of these coins are common, but when you find one with full steps, or a dramatic mint error, or in flawless uncirculated condition, you've uncovered something rare. And in the coin collecting world, rarity is what makes a piece truly exciting. Now let's get to the part you've been waiting for, the value. In average circulated condition, most 1991 nickels are only worth their face value. But coins in uncirculated grades can be worth much more. A sharp, uncirculated example with full steps can bring in well over $100, and rare minting errors can climb much higher. In fact, some of the finest known full steps examples from 1991 have sold at auction for more than $1,000, and dramatic error coins have reached prices even beyond that. So next time you come across a 1991 Jefferson nickel, don't just let it pass by. Take a closer look at Monticello's steps, study the details of Jefferson's portrait, and always keep an eye out for unusual errors. You never know when a simple nickel could turn into a hidden treasure. If you enjoyed this journey into the 1991 Jefferson nickel, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and tap the notification bell so you don't miss out on more discoveries. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, happy collecting.